Welcome to this video about double helix lessons from CSIRO. Today I will be talking about how to leave feedback and mark your students' work. There are a number of ways to actually leave feedback for your students, but I will take you through probably the most common way to do it. First of all, when your students complete an assessed lesson, you will get a notification, and that notification will show up at the top of your double helix lessons dashboard here under notifications. You'll actually get a little number that shows that you've got a notification, but unfortunately, because I've already selected the notification, that number is not showing right now. But when you click on notifications, you can see most recent ones that have popped up. So I can see here that one of my students has just submitted 2 different assessments. So I'm going to click on the first one that they've submitted, which is the first assessment in natural disasters. And if I scroll down to where the assessed content begins, right, so in the first question, which as you can see is graded because in brackets it says 1 mark is available for getting this question right, my student has written some observations on the simulation, the natural disasters simulation they have just viewed. Now, a couple of things looking at this, I know that there were 6 natural disasters, but my student has only mentioned 5 of them. And at the very end there, my student has not quite written a complete sentence, and I would like to encourage them to use complete sentences and proper punctuation while answering a question. So there are a number of ways that I can let them know about this feedback. First of all, just underneath that question here, I have this yellowish box that says, I think that. And if I click on it, I can actually write some feedback. So, good work. You found 5 of the 6 natural disasters. Which one is missing? And even though they only got 5 out of 6, because this question's only worth 1 grade, I will still afford them that 1 grade. And once I've finished with this feedback and given them the grade, I will press tick, which means they have passed that particular question. However, there's still that issue with the sentence and the sentence structure of their answer. So I can actually go straight into their answer, double-click the word "and," for example, click on this icon here, which is an edit icon, and that'll allow me to annotate their answer. So once again, I get a little field where I can type in, it says, I think that. Please use full sentences and proper punctuation when answering questions. Great. And when I'm happy with that, I can click done, or if I've changed my mind, I can click this little red icon with the rubbish bin in it, and that'll delete my annotation. But I'm going to save this for the moment. And now you can see the word "and" has been highlighted, and if I hover over it, my annotation appears. Great. So going through each of the questions, I can provide feedback for each one. For this one, unfortunately, they really only answered half of the question. Here they had to fill out a table. I'm just going to award them a mark for that. They had to think about it all. And once I have finished marking all the questions, if I scroll to the end of the unit of the lesson, I will be able to provide a summary of feedback for the student. So I, again, can type in here. I've actually already written a bit of feedback. Pay more attention to detail and make sure you've answered the full question. Great. I can even attach a file for feedback if I want to. And you'll see here that the marks have automatically calculated at the end, and I can see that the student has only received 38% of the total grade. Now that's partially, of course, because I haven't added in all the marks. I can even leave audio feedback if I want to. So once again, for students who might have some reading difficulties, leaving audio feedback is a great way to connect with them. And once I'm happy with that, I can either release the feedback and require resubmission, so if the student needs to try again with some of those questions, or I can release the feedback and answers, which means the student will get a notification to say that the answers are available and they can check their work. Fantastic. Now, just scrolling back up, in my notifications, I saw that the student had actually completed 2 different assessments. So let's look at the other assessment for a moment. The other assessment is a little bit different. In the first one, there were lots of written answers where the students explained their findings and their thoughts on things. In this assessment, there's multiple choice, which of course makes it a little bit easier to mark because they are simply yes or no answers. Also note that the student handed in the work late. So where there's a due date, the double helix lessons will immediately tell you that the work was handed in late, if that was the case. And of course, you may wish to penalize them for this or talk to them about why they handed in late. So if I scroll down, I can see my different multiple choice questions. And I can see immediately here, this student got 1 right, but they ticked a second one, which was wrong. In this question, they got 2 right, and there were 2 to be answered. And you'll see that double helix lessons automatically assigns a mark to that. So for this one, I can write in a comment about what they got wrong or what they might need to think about in future, and the mark is automatically being awarded as 0 out of 1 because they got the question answer incorrect. So I can scroll down and see here, for example, there were multiple answers to that question, and the student missed one, but got 1 incorrect. And if I keep scrolling down, I can see all the different questions and how the student answered. And once again, right at the bottom, I can see the mark tally, a total of 11 out of 16, and I can write a little bit of feedback or leave audio feedback if I wish, submit for resubmission, or submit with the answers. Fantastic. Right. The other thing we can do is go into the students, have a look at the students in your student tab, and actually click on individual students if you want to check up on how they're going. So, for example, you can provide a live report on how the student is going. I have previously written in here some feedback for the student, some commentary on the student's performance. The student is progressing well with content, however needs to spend more time elaborating on concepts learned and also watch spelling mistakes. And this is great. These are great notes from myself if I want to reflect later on the student's progress. The other thing we can do is check how the student is going with their grades. Now, I haven't submitted my marks on either of those assessments, so the student is still sitting at 0%. But as the student completes more assessments and I provide those grades, these little dots will move to wherever the grades might lie. I can also see whether the student has any upcoming assignments to complete. So the student has 1 to complete before the end of the year. The other thing I can do is provide feedback about the student to my colleagues. So we can connect to other teachers who are teaching this class with double helix lessons. And I can tell my fellow teachers, perhaps the student needs some more supervision in a certain area, and my other teachers can help with that. So if I type it, post a comment in here, then the other teachers connected to this lesson will be able to see it as well. The other thing I can do is email the students some feedback if I need to, but otherwise that feedback that I've already given within the assessment will also pop up in the student's view. Okay, so now we've provided our students some feedback, marked the assessments, and checked out their grades and their progress notes. Now that you know how to do that, do watch the next video, which is all about the markbook. And the markbook further shows you how your class is performing and will help you track your students' progress. Thank you very much for watching this video.